Welcome to the Creepy Kingdom. We are all about the creepy side. Theme parks, films, haunts, and everything in between. We create original films, live streams, vlogs, podcasts, and more. Hit that subscribe button to make sure that you always keep it creepy.
Now it is time to open up the gates. Creepy Kingdom proudly presents The Dark Theme Park Show.
Hey there, welcome to the Dark Theme Park Show, Creepy Kingdom's podcast, all about the creepiness of theme parks. I am your host, Mr. James H. Carter II, and for this very episode, I am joined by America's sweetheart, Josh Taylor. Come to the stage, Josh.
It's me. It's me. I'm America's sweetheart. Hello.
It just came up with that one off the top of my head. Yeah, you got your royal wave, even though that's
I've got it
American. That's
gonna be fine.
British. But anyways, we are pumped. We're excited. We are here to talk about the theme park announcements from this year's D23, whatever they're calling it now. It's no longer the Expo because nobody called it D23 Expo. So now I think it's called the Ultimate Fan Experience. Way too many syllables.
That's a lot. It is a lot.
We're all just calling it D23. So even though D23 is an organization, but we call the event D23 because it's less syllables. And every 2 years, Disney has its own convention for all areas of the company. For us theme park fans, we have grown accustomed to major theme park announcements at this event. So we are very excited to talk about them. There's a few in particular that that we have pointed out to cover here. There was too many to cover in one episode, but some that are really relevant to us here at Creepy Kingdom. But before we do that, we have a little housekeeping. To discuss. Yes, and we are back on our monthly schedule. We had an episode last month. Here's one this month. Now, when that episode is going to be released is going to fluctuate. The last episode came out last week in July, and this is the first week of September, but we will have another one towards the end of September. So we didn't skip August if you're following along at home with our monthly schedule.
Our plan was to have this out in August, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, for full transparency, doing podcast has become very challenging for us amongst all the other things that Creepy Kingdom is doing, but it is very important to us as an institution to continue with podcasting because that is the platform in which the Creepy Kingdom journey really started. And for those that still enjoy that content, that style of content that we produce, we're here for you. We're going to keep doing it. And we're committed to the Dark Theme Park Show monthly. Once upon a time, we were cranking out podcasts weekly, but we weren't doing anything else.
True.
Now we're doing many different things, as you're probably aware. So there's that. And also want to mention, we do have a second YouTube channel that we've launched, Creepy Kingdom Movie Madness. That channel is all the place where we do all our content surrounding movies and series. And this channel that you're watching this on, if you're watching the YouTube version, if not, you listen to the audio and it's all going to the same feed. But if you're watching this on YouTube, this channel is where we do everything about our events, theme parks, any place you could physically be there. That's what we're talking about on this channel.
Right.
So I think we're ready to dive into this situation here.
I'm ready to talk about some new theme park stuff. I'm actually really excited about some of these things.
Yeah, what's interesting is that Josh and I organically just talk about this stuff all the time in our social interactions, and we haven't talked about any of this. We've saved it for the show.
Unintentionally,
yes, that's true. I mean, it was a little intentionally for me, but I guess we've had some other things to talk about.
Yeah.
But all that being said, it's been about 3 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks since the event. So that's it's quite remarkable that we haven't really talked about any of this.
I know.
So,
Honestly, it is. Yeah.
but we're going to talk about the announcement event briefly. We're going to get into what it was. It was called Horizons, which of course they were throwing some what's the word I'm looking for? Not catering, but letting the theme park fans know, you're like, hey, we're here for you, because of course Horizons being one of the beloved attractions at Epcot, and
Right.
also appropriate for saying what's coming up. Pretty clever. In the past at D23, it has been very challenging to get into these panels at the Anaheim Convention Center. I personally have never gotten to a theme park panel the years that I've gone. Once I got into the live action panel, and that was after 3 hours of waiting.
Yeah. They're
And
intense.
I'm not willing to do anything like that anymore. I mean, if some other people are, that's awesome. Go for it.
Yeah.
But
I think I've been to 2 of the theme park panels in the past. Both of them, like you said, I waited a few hours, and it was overall a really fun experience.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it a lot, but yeah, I think that like overall, um, I don't know if I'm willing to wait anymore.
Yeah, it's fun to be in the room, but you know, maybe not for us, but it's fine. Either way.
Right.
Well, um, last not last year, but the last one they had, they live streamed it on YouTube, and that's actually how I watched it, because it was on a Sunday last year, and I just went the Friday and Saturday, and
Okay.
so I was like, oh, this is great. I watched it live on YouTube in my house. They did
You
not.
were able to watch it this year if you were um, online on your PlayStation or your Xbox, because
Oh, is
they
that
didn't
I didn't.
stream it. They didn't stream it live over YouTube or anything like that. You had to enter a room in Fortnite to be able to watch it.
Oh, is that what all that was about? I didn't really understand what was happening with that, because I don't currently have a console
Yeah,
and I don't play Fortnite, so I,
it
I had
was
no
real
idea what they were
weird.
talking about.
I'm unsure of why they thought that was where uh, a lot of adults would like to view this panel, but I don't know anybody who watched it in Fortnite, and we
I
all
mean,
just
that's
found
I,
ways to watch it.
yeah. Excuse my ignorance, but that's like for like children, right? Like, like
I
like
mean, no, there's definitely some adults that play it, but it's definitely. I mean, to be able to like get into it, you have to have the room code, you have to have the game downloaded. It's free to like download, but like it was a lot of steps for
Mhm.
people who don't play Fortnite, like you and I. So we just didn't.
We didn't. And also the big news there is that they moved this panel from out of the Anaheim Convention Center to the Honda Center, an arena about a few miles away from the Anaheim Convention Center. And I cannot confirm or deny um, is that this was not included with your ticket to D23. Do you know about that
I
or not?
believe that's correct. Yeah, that was
So
not.
this
You
was
had
an
to
upcharge to attend this event.
right, which was the same for any of the other film panels or the Legends ceremony or anything like that as well.
Everything at the Honda Center.
Yeah,
Okay. So I just say, you and I were not there. We did not go in the room, and as much
right.
as it would have been cool to be in the room as a fan, um, there's a lot of roadblocks to getting there.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Many people live streamed it from their phones, and that's how I watched it, to be quite honest, which was very challenging as far as audio goes, because we're hearing reverbed audio from people's live streams. but that's how dedicated of a fan I am, and as a reporter here for you guys.
I watched
see
it
what on.
in highlights afterwards, and mostly just read about it. So sorry, everyone.
So yeah, you let us down. I watched it all, and I would say the vast majority of this 3-hour presentation was musical performances.
It was quite a bit.
Yeah, which was probably, I mean, maybe some people enjoy that. I don't know if they like whatever kind of music that was being performed. I kind of felt like they could have had like 2 or 3 musical performances and we would have been good. But that's just me. Anyways, but we did get some information out of here, and what was really important is that the last D23, they didn't really tell us any information. It was just the one coming out of most of lockdown and
Right.
COVID restrictions, and they really didn't have too much to say. So they stood on stage and brainstormed with us for a few hours, which I have mixed feelings about. I guess. I mean, it gave us an idea of what they are considering, but they didn't even phrase this like, "Hey, there's something we're considering. We might do this. We're still doing research on it. We're still doing testing. Whatever it want to be. We'll see. I don't know." But the way that they phrased it was like, "Are we going to do this? I don't know. We could if we wanted to," which I don't think that left a good taste in everyone's mouth. I don't know how you felt
No,
about
that's
it.
why I think this year was a much better presentation
Yeah.
than the previous D23 Expo. I think that this year, some people, for better or worse, depending on how you feel about the things that were announced, um, it left people pretty happy. Even if they didn't love everything that was coming out, at least they got some real announcements and some things that like they were actually going to start putting shovels in ground immediately. Some things, I believe that were already underway. So that's exciting.
Yeah, no, this time it's like, here's some concrete things that they say are happening. So we're like, okay, well, whether you like it or not, at least you can know that it's coming and start to form your opinion about it instead of, is this going to happen? I mean, that'd be cool. Or I don't know if I like that, like, so that was a good start. I think that's pretty much how Josh Tomorrow started. I forget the phrasing he said, but he started the whole presentation saying everything announced is
Is coming.
greenlit. Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's in development, whatever.
Which includes, I think, at least for our audience at Creepy Kingdom, probably the most anticipated announcement.
Yes.
Something that like I think most people thought would never really happen.
I did too. So let's get right into it. This is the number one announcement here for Creepy Kingdom. And that, of course, is that they announced a Villain's Land coming to Magic Kingdom. Which, I
Huge.
mean, they teased this in their thing, 2 years ago, and we're like, okay, but I didn't hold on hope for it, I guess. And since that announcement, I mean, it was already kind of known beforehand, but since that announcement, Epic Universe had clearly announced that they are doing the Dark Universe based on Universal Monsters Land and their new theme park. And I'm sure that was part of the decision to green light this Villain's Land at Magic Kingdom. And before we even really get into this announcement, I do have to recognize the historical significance of it in Creepy Kingdom itself, which literally almost 10 years ago, we recorded a podcast episode where we had Disney historian Jim Hill on, where he told me in detail about concept art that he saw for a attraction that was called Villains Mountain, Splash Mountain level, basically a villain's version of Splash Mountain. And that this would have been in the Magic Kingdom, and it would have been its own little mini land to separate it from wherever it was going to be. And he actually, if I recall, I believe he was saying that it was Frontierland adjacent, or at least Fantasyland, and that it would have this one attraction and then kind of a a darker themed area around it. um, which a that like hearing about that possible, like even the concept for that 10 years ago was one of my favorite moments ever doing Creepy Kingdom. I was like, that was
Now,
even
now here you
possible.
are.
And the fact that 10 years later
Yeah.
they're announcing a villain's land at Magic Kingdom. I when they announced this live that night, I went on Creepy Kingdom's Instagram and I shared that information and I said, this is the most important announcement or news in the history of Creepy Kingdom. Like, I mean, there's no,
Wow.
there's like, this is huge for us. Like, Creepy Kingdom has evolved into many different things from once it came, once it was spawned, but it was started on one idea. And the idea is that the dark and the macabre and the horror within Disney is just as important and relevant as the bright, sunny, fun stuff that everyone associates it with.
Right.
And I felt was not being celebrated enough, which is the sole reason that I started Creepy Kingdom.
Well,
uh,
and when you look at like this artwork that they have, right? For people that are video viewers of the podcast, you get to see some of the artwork that we're putting up. So
mhm.
I'm sorry for the audio listeners here.
It's okay. I will
But you
describe as much
get
as possible.
and obviously like the concept artwork, it never really gets exactly what you want out of it.
Yeah.
But like to see Maleficent as a dragon in the background and to see some of these places that you'll be able to walk through, it really kind of feels like you were gonna get a dining and shopping and like a few attractions here.
Mhm.
But this almost seems like the equivalent of what they were building in New Fantasyland, a decade ago, the Magic Kingdom, but like the opposite side of it.
Right,
So
right.
you're
Yeah.
getting a little bit of like Gaston. I mean, Gaston's Tavern is in New Fantasyland, but like you get that same kind of thing where you have like little pockets of areas that really feel like, okay, this is the Maleficent area. Okay, over here is like where Mother Gothel is, etc. So you may get like a few different landscapes throughout this one land. Is kind of what I'm imagining.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to be clear, this concept art is not like, it's super vague. It's like, it's definitely its concept. It's ideas of what could be. I would
Right.
I would I They haven't announced anything particular about it. They just said 2 attractions, dining and shopping. So there's a lot happening in this concept art. If we could probably do a podcast just going through the concept art and speculating about what it means, which
Right.
is almost pointless because these are not concrete things. But what it does show you is the scale that they're going for is
Right.
massive, much more massive than I could have ever imagined. Even if it's forced perspective, it seems like it's really going to immerse you. And you're probably right. It's probably going to be, actually, I probably feel like from this concept art, it's going to be even more expansive than New Fantasyland. I mean,
Possibly so.
When I think about New Fantasyland, I since they open in phases in my brain, I don't usually include Dumbo's Circus or Seven Doors Mine Train. I
It's
literally
all
just think
there.
about the path around it, but I guess that's all part of it. So I guess it
Yeah.
is probably going to be on scale. But I just think about, you know, uh, all the Beauty and the Beast stuff to Little Mermaid. That's like literally my mind goes to when I think about
No, yeah, I think that
it.
this is gonna be, the same. I believe it's in Paris that they're doing it too, right? Where they're building kind of like a newer fantasy land where it's like a Peter Pan area and then like a Frozen area and a Beauty and the Beast area. I feel like that's kind of the magic trilogy idea that they want to go with. So it might be like Maleficent seems like the obvious one that they're going with, and then maybe two other villains that they'll highlight in this land.
Well, I hope that this Villains Mountain thing, the version of that is like the main e-ticket attraction, that it's not based on one villain, that it's some kind of mashup
Yeah.
experience.
My guess is this is still quite a few years out, so I'm sure that we'll get a lot more details in 2 years at the next D23 Expo. So, if you're,
Mm.
looking to a reason to go to the D23 Expo, that might be the main reason if that's what you're most excited about.
Yeah, yeah, let's hope. Well, I mean, again, I guess concluding on this, we really don't have much more to say about it besides our level of excitement is through the roof. And I don't think we're gonna see this. We're not gonna walk into a villain's land a minimum of 5 years,
Right.
possibly longer. I mean, they didn't even some of these things they gave a time frame, but they didn't even say when they'd even start working on this. To be honest,
I'm gonna say at least 4 years or so. I remember when they announced Avatar, they had not yet done anything, um, similar in this same way of, like, kind of like, "Here's some concept art. This is what we're gonna do. We know we're gonna do it." And I think that popped up 4 or 5 years later. So I would assume this is in the same regards as that.
yeah, I think Avatar
We'll
was longer than that.
possibly so, and we'll get to some Avatar announcements
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
later in the show.
yeah. All right, well, let's move on to our next thing here, Walt Disney World. I don't think we specified we're starting with Walt Disney World, then going to Disneyland. I think we just were so excited to get the bills. We didn't even say
We did, yeah,
that.
we know that that's happening in Magic Kingdom. The next thing is happening at the Hollywood Studios park.
Yeah, and that is a Monsters Inc. land. Dun dun dun, huh? So construction begins next year on the first full land dedicated to Monsters Inc. coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida. The land will feature the first suspended coaster ever in a Disney park, where guests can experience what it's like to zoom through the door vault in the factory, just like Mike in Sully. So yeah, this was something theme park nerds know that they teased building this in 2008, and then it got canceled, and now they're bringing it back. Um, and they're building a land around it. Back to your statement there earlier that they're really about bringing you into themed mini lands to bring you into the space, the you know the trend that the Wizarding World of Harry Potter started and left and changed the theme park industry forever. You know, I
It
feel
really
like
did.
we're like almost I feel like we're rarely going to see a new land be built where it's just different IP that doesn't
Right.
cohesively go together.
A
You know?
vague concept of tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see that maybe never again, but not in our lifetime.
It seems like, with all these announcements that we're getting, that's kind of the trend that we're going towards,
Yeah.
which I have my feelings about that. Personally, I prefer more of a vague land with the ability to come up with different concepts. I think that its longevity in that idea is better. If you're gonna do it, I think that like the
Mm,
Muppets area of Hollywood Studios is great because like I think it's considered Muppets Courtyard, but like really the only thing that makes it Muppets is like Muppets 3D. Even Pizza Rizzo, you could put up some brand new signage and that restaurant wouldn't be Muppets themed, right?
right,
Like,
yeah, there's not really like other heavily themed Muppets things happening in that
yeah,
area.
it's like they took the New York street that was there and were like, yeah, it's kind of Muppets enough. So
Right.
there you go. But like, I think I personally like that look. When you look at like Monstropolis here, there's not much you can do to this to change it. I mean, you have the Monstropolis building in the background. That would have to be completely changed or demolished, and I guess most of the other stuff here could work.
Mhm.
Um, it just depends. But like, when you're looking at like this concept building, it's like, wow, okay, this is a lot of exactly what's in the film. So it'd be hard to get around that. But yeah, I'm still interested in this. I'm a big Monsters Inc. person. I think it's
Mhm.
one of my favorite Pixar films. I know a lot of people have debated where it's going to be going in Hollywood
Yeah,
studios. Some people
because
think the Muppets are going to go away. I don't think that that's the case, but I'm
well,
also a
the
Muppets diehard. So
Well, yeah, I mean, that's been a point of contention since right after the announcement and this concept art came up. And just for clarity, some of it looks like it would be where Muppets Courtyard is, and other part of it looks like it would be where the animation courtyard would be. Is that what it's?
Yeah.
So many courtyards. Um, and it wouldn't, as far as like replacing an area that has nothing going on, like animation courtyard would be the place. It would be
Animation Courtyard, as long as along with that, like, Star Wars
Star Wars launch
building,
bay.
you know,
Yeah,
like, who's going in there anymore? The launch bay
I don't
was a
know.
great idea for
Do they
when
still
they were
have
building Star Wars Land,
yeah,
but
to hold you over, yeah. Do they even
yeah,
have
it's
meet and greets in
unnecessary.
there in Launch Bay and Hollywood Studios anymore? I mean,
Yeah, I think
I
there's
just
some meet and greets, but, like, you could easily move those. In the same
yeah,
way that, they're gonna have the new Little Mermaid show, but they could easily put that show anywhere in the park.
yeah. So, we don't know where it's going, but I guess one question here to bring up here is Monsters, Inc. is particularly the first movie. Second movie I think is okay, but I think that's the universe itself, is fun. But I don't know the longevity of a massive land like this, like as far as like public interest. Maybe I don't know. Is there another? I know they're making sequels to every Pixar movie, so I don't know if there's another Monsters Inc. movie coming. But
I don't think
I
so.
feel like time will make it so that if the ride delivers, that's what is going to get people excited about this whole area. I mean, and it
Yeah, I
look,
mean, this is why I think the best concept, right, would be like instead of doing Toy Story Land, having done a Pixar area and then having one, themed attraction to each film. Again, I'm with you. I don't know the longevity of Monsters Inc. or its popularity.
mhm.
I'm sure it'll be just fine, but um, yeah, you're then gonna have to demo an entire land versus just one ride.
Pushing out an attraction. Yeah. So, and if it's in the courtyard, this would also be kind of adjacent. I it could connect to Toy Story Land. I think
Yeah,
I'm not looking at a map at the moment, but I mean, um, so it could work. Um, we'll see. I This concept art as like Monstropolis is like Monstropolis itself is just not like a place that I'm like, oh, I really want to visit there. Like, so so that I hope they deliver a lot more interesting visual things than it's just a place for humans that now monsters live. I mean, that's kind of what Monstropolis is, right? Like, so it's like,
but going back to that, like, if this was 2004, right? Like, when the Monsters Inc. was huge,
mhm.
maybe you would wanna go to Monstropolis in the same way that, like, Zootopia, is an interesting place for people that wanna go there now, but, like, in 10 years, will people really wanna go to Zootopia?
Yeah. I mean, you can use that example. Like, I don't necessarily want to go to Zootopia, like based on the land. It's the characters
Yeah.
that matter.
Which
So with Monstropolis, they're really gonna have to deliver on the random monsters that you see throughout the films, which it's probably not gonna be the case.
right. And I think that this is also the same situation, and I think it's slightly different over at DCA, having Cars Land. Cars fits the California vibe. Route 66, you can kind of change that up. But Pixar Pier is perfect there because, again, if, like, let's say Incredibles doesn't do well anymore, right? Nobody wants to see Incredibles 3. Um, you can change the roller coaster theme. You can do all that. You can't
Yeah.
change an entire land easily. Which I think comes to the next land that we have, going back to the Magic Kingdom, right?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah, yeah.
again under huge debate from people.
Yeah, let's get into this. So Cars, I was about to say, we talk about Cars a second. Cars is coming to Magic Kingdom, but not Radiator Springs. No, no.
No.
They don't have a name for this area yet or attraction or whatever, but um It just says they're coming to Frontierland with 2 all-new attractions, taking guests into the wilderness beyond Radiator Springs, a thrilling off-road rally, and a family-friendly attraction. Construction will begin early next year. So this is coming soon. So yeah, I'll let you begin here this round. What's your reaction to this?
Listen, as somebody who enjoys Cars Land, like probably more than I ever should love Cars Land, considering that I'm not a huge fan of the films.
Mm.
This seems like such a really strange push, considering they're putting a lot of emphasis on Pixar stuff over in the Hollywood studios. You've got Toy Story Land, you're going to have this Monsters Inc. land.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Why would you not put it there, especially now knowing that the Rivers of America are going away at Frontierland, at the Magic Kingdom, and then they're going to basically put this where the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island is. And I don't care. I don't care if the river goes away. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not sacred like a lot of people are about things like that, but
Mhm.
I do think that if you're going to have a Cars attraction slash mini land, it makes sense to put it with all the other Pixar stuff.
Yeah, I
In
didn't think
Hollywood
about that.
Studios.
I agree with you. I didn't think about that. My initial thought is I'm on the same page with you about Cars Land and the Cars film. Like I'm not really a fan of the films. But I do like Radiator Springs and the kind of mid-century 50s vibe of it.
Yeah.
And I think that hanging out in Cars Land is about that. And that's very enjoyable. you know,
And that works really well with
yeah,
the DCA vibe.
yeah. So every once in a while the characters come driving around, but other than that, the cars aren't really around the land, right? Like it's really
Yeah.
about this being in this like mid-century Route 66 area, which which works for me as far as my personal enjoyment. It's fine. Like I like going there. It's fun. I like how they do the holiday overlays there. I like all the stuff there. So all that being said, taking the Cars franchise and putting it into the wilderness, quote unquote, as part of Frontierland, which has taking away all of the mid-century vibe and theming or whatever, is not really that interesting of a concept.
Right.
So there's that. But this attraction, which they've been really vague on, it just makes it sound like you're going off-roading. I am very intrigued about that because essentially Radiator Springs Racers is another version of Test Track, which is in its original form and maybe in the new form a fun attraction. And Radiator Springs Racers is fun too. It's for what it is, but this could be a really cool experience because there's rumors that this could be trackless. And if you're going on a trackless, drive through mountain ranges for a roller coaster type experience, regardless of the IP, I think that could be fun, and I'm really curious to see how they pull this off. So I think the theming of this, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But this particular ride system, I think could be a really cool experience.
Okay.
And to conclude, go ahead.
You're more interested in the technology behind it than anything
Yes.
else.
Yeah, that's what I think. I know that, getting a Cars attraction in Magic Kingdom is a good business for the general public. I could recognize that.
Yeah.
But as far as my personal interest goes, I think that this ride could be a cool ride. But yeah, in conclusion, this Rivers of America Tom Sawyer Island controversy, I tend to lean more towards you. Not really interesting for our listeners that we're not debating,
Right.
but that's why we're friends. But um, I I think in general, the theme park community is like always up in arms about the idea of change.
Right.
And, you know, that's fine. I guess everyone is entitled to their opinions. And I guess there's really no harm in it. It's just not something I want to focus on. You know, like there's been things that I love in the Disney parks that have gone away, you know, and I think probably the basic example of like why this really has no actual impact on anything that I experienced firsthand. It was when Tower of Terror changed to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Clearly, I was bummed that they're taking away the only horror dark attraction in DCA, and changing it to Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, obviously, I not obviously, but I do enjoy the franchise, and you know, having an attraction based on that, I have no problem with. But I was not really too happy about it. But most people were really upset about it, and I thought, wow, see, people are so upset about this, they're probably gonna boycott the new ride, or whatever. I don't know, but you know, the ride went down in January of whatever year that was. I think it was 17. 6 months later, Mission Breakout opened up, and everybody loves it. And I've heard almost nobody talk about they're bummed that that Tower of Terror is gone.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I've got my group mug that I bought there, and I enjoy it. I think because I know the Tower of Terror exists at Hollywood Studios,
Oh, there's
I'm
that.
okay with it.
Yeah, there was that. There's a better version of it there. But my main point being is that the whenever there's these like pointed contentions for like that are going around the theme park community, they seem to move on from it real fast.
Yeah.
Some longer than others, but I feel like that not moving on is just how long it takes them to actually open the new attraction. Case in point, Splash Mountain to Tiana's. Yeah, you
Right.
know, so long between when they announced it to when then the first Magic Kingdom one opened, that you know the discourse just went on that long. But this was like such a fast turnaround theoretically for the from Tower of Terror to Garden. It was like 6 months, and so I could actually see it in real time. Like no, it's like nobody caring that Tower of Terror was gone. I'm sure somebody does, but the general consensus.
People like Guardians. I think the thing about changes is that you're always going to have people who are going to be uproarious about something, right? I've
Mhm.
seen people, and this goes on to our next topic here. The people are already in an outrage about, the dinosaur attraction at Animal Kingdom going away,
Yeah.
and the Dino Land going away, even though people have honestly hated Dino Land since it opened.
Yeah, it's the Dino
People
Land
are
thing
now
is
upset that
very
it might go
interesting.
away.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I was thinking about it and I'm like, everyone like hates like dunks on Dino Land's theming, which it's debatable, or particularly you know, the Chester and Lester's whatever
Yeah.
what you know, I forget what it's called, but area. Um, you know, and and I'm not even gonna get into it here. It's debatable whether that was, you know, of good or not, effective or not, blah blah blah. Um, but general consensus was this sucks.
Right.
So then it's like, and then with Dinosaur, you know, Dinosaur is cool, and it would be, in my opinion, and but there's a lot of it could be updated. There's a lot of empty, dark time in that attraction that can be filled with things. So
It's
it
needed a
could,
lot of love for a long time.
yeah, it could use some TLC to keep it going. I mean, you know, like there's that. But because of that, I mean, nobody really goes on it, right? I mean, like let's just be honest. Like I can't remember the last time I had to wait like more than 5 to 10 minutes to get on this
Versus
e-ticket attraction.
versus its equivalent at Disneyland, the Indiana Jones adventure is consistently a 45 to an hour long wait.
If not longer, yeah,
Yeah.
you would think that and obviously they have a capacity issue, but you would think that Indy and Disneyland, like it like just opened up like, you know, a few years ago or something. The demand is so strong for this 30-year-old attraction. It's about to be 30 years old. You know, like it's
Right. Well, I
so
mean, I guess let's talk about it. Like, now we're going to be seeing Indiana Jones over at Animal Kingdom.
This area is called the Tropical Americas at Animal Kingdom, and I could see people not being happy that this area is being built because it's not really about animals. I guess that's kind of the point of contention that I've heard.
Sure.
And it's an opinion to have, I guess. I don't know, but
I think that the park has gone through a lot of changes over the years. Obviously, the not a zoo days are definitely dead and gone. But
mm,
I do think that like this version of the park, right? So we have uh the Asia area, which really like its main focus is, a mythical creature on Mount Everest, but they have the walking paths to see all of the different animals. And I can't help but think that even though they've announced, what the attractions are going to be, because it's easier to probably announce the attractions than to figure out what animals they're going to be able to get years down the line.
sure.
I believe that they're still probably gonna have quite a few animal habitats within this area that will make sense, and I think just like you have in the Africa and Asia areas, these walking paths to see animals, I would assume that the tropical Americas, which is a underrepresented, kind of needed area anyways for this park, will have a similar walking path. That's just not one of the things that you're gonna announce to pop a crowd at a theme park, announcement party like this. But I would
Right,
assume that
right.
we're gonna see some sort of Amazon walking path that goes along with this.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're probably right. But we'll see. But let's talk
Yeah.
about what with these attractions. So they have announced a version of Indiana Jones Adventure is coming, and they just said that it would be different. And I think if you're gonna do put Indy in there, that it should be different. I think that's great. I'm glad that they're not just like cloning. I also kind of feel that the current Indiana Jones adventure is still fun as it is, but technology has come a long way in 30 years for a lot of the things they
It's
try to
true.
pull off. Some of the effects that they tried to do in there, they had to turn off, right? Like, because they couldn't maintain them or or whatever. That's a whole other topic, but they're they were over ambitious at its launch and it couldn't keep going. And I feel like there's an opportunity for some really cool stuff to be in there and to be the better version of the attraction. But it
That could
seems
be.
like
I
what they're
kind of
saying.
do like I like the idea of like coming into this big giant open room. And even though the track layout is basically the same at
Mm,
Animal Kingdom, I feel like the actual building forces, a little bit closer, so that like that's why the dinosaurs feel as close as they are
yeah,
versus going into this big giant room. So I think that it's going to be a little bit more going scene by scene rather than being immersed into this giant temple, like you are at Disneyland. So I think that that in and of itself will be different. But like you said, I think the technology is there to do some more interesting things and maybe to pull off some things that they tried to do, but
right.
didn't fully succeed at.
Yeah, like things like choose which path you're going, give the illusion that you're going on a different path. That was one of my favorite things that tricked me when I was
Yeah.
a younger person. The falling ice effect that used to be in there. Um, and I think there's pretty high chance it'll be trackless too, which will give you a little bit more of
You're loving
the
these trackless
thrill.
rides.
I do love it. I haven't really experienced too many, but the ones that I have, there is a thrill not being able to be able to anticipate where
It's
you're
true.
going. What ones have I experienced? Really, Rise of the Resistance and Luigi's. I think. I don't think I've experienced
Mickey
any
and
other
Minnie's
ones.
Runaway Railway.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I mean, that one, I guess I didn't think of that because you could pretty much anticipate where you're going. That the fact that that's
Yeah.
trackless it's kind of pointless. But there's little moments of jolting around where you don't know that's happening. Anyways, I think that would really work well in this space. So that's cool. But so I think that's a cool idea to bring that in there, and I'm interested to see how it pulls off. So let's talk about Encanto, excuse me. I sound so American.
Yeah,
Encanto.
you're so white. You're such a white American.
Yeah, I bet you. I'm gonna go see that in Canto. I think that this warrants an attraction based on its extreme popularity. So that makes sense to me. I think that the film itself and the house lends itself to a theme park attraction pretty seamlessly. I think the idea of this is pretty exciting to me. Um, and the idea that, and based on this concept art here, that you're walking up to the house the way that it looks in the film, and then you're brought into this magical world of inside the house. Similarly to a haunted mansion experience, it kind of has that same bait and switch, I guess, or the way they trick you. It's like, oh yeah, everything's happening in this one little facade, but I'm sure the show building is like 20 times the size of this.
Oh, of course it will be.
And I think that's a great use of that kind of setup, and that seems like a lot of fun. So I'm kind of pumped for this ride. I don't really know what the ride vehicle will be, and in this concept art, they cut off like what it is. It could be a boat. I don't know how that work. It could be whatever. I don't know, some kind of vehicle.
Yeah, this for me, this one is my possible um trackless one, if anything.
Yeah, okay.
To
Why
me,
is
this
that?
feels more like the trackless ride system, but this also feels very screen heavy. Um, so I'm interested to see how they
Hmm.
incorporate screens and practical effects, if anything. I think I'm kind of with you. I'm more interested in almost like seeing the house and seeing the facade more than the attraction.
Hmm.
I'm really enticed by like the Colombian look of everything and kind of the colorful nature of the home. But like I think that this is a home run attraction. Regardless, it's going to be a home run attraction. People are going to wait for it, and
Yeah.
it looks like they're going to focus on some animals here, which means it could give way to having, like I said, a pathway, behind it. So I forget the name of the kid in the film that has his room filled with animals,
Yeah. Yeah.
but my assumption is that
Antonio.
will be a part of it.
Antonio, right? Isn't that?
Antonio, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
So maybe it'll be like Antonio's room, and then you go down his room and enter a pathway into something. I'm not sure. I'm just spitballing here.
Well, who knows what it's going to be, but I think I didn't I didn't really think about the screens aspect, which you're probably right. I like I just I I mean, honestly, my ambition or my thoughts of this are pretty big. I'm thinking Rise of the Resistance level, to be honest. I may be over uh hyping it up here.
You just want everything to be a giant e-ticket attraction. It's okay.
Not everything, but this seems
Sure.
like it warrants it because of the scale of what could be possible,
Yeah.
and based on what we saw in the films. you know,
Yeah.
um, so, and I think the popularity of the film would justify, delivering it that way. So that's where my brain kind of went, thinking that that's how it was going to be. So I don't know.
It could be.
Oh,
I mean, it has the potential to be that. So we'll see. It seems like the majority of what they decided to give time to at these announcements, especially in concept art, were the giant e-ticket attractions. Like
oh yeah,
they going back to the Cars mini land, they announced 2 attractions, and they really only gave us concept art for one, assuming that the other one is probably a smaller
Yeah, they'd
Oh,
mentioned that it was for an all ages. They didn't even say what it was. They just said it was like an all ages thing. So
right.
it's
So
gonna be
you
like a
might think that
Mater's
the
Junkyard
junkyard
Jamboree.
jamboree kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So uh, I would expect that kind of thing to not be a huge announcement. So maybe you're right. Maybe this is worthy of this big Rise the Resistance style e-ticket attraction.
We'll see. They said it's set to open in 2027, so they've given a year.
Yeah,
So,
which means that Dino Land is dying sooner rather than later.
yeah, I don't think they've given a closing date yet, but I probably won't get there before it happens. So
No. RIP.
Alright, so moving on, we're gonna talk about the announcements for Disneyland, the
Shrimp and
place
toast.
that is down the street from both of us. The place
It's
that
true.
we spend a significant amount of time at, and
Much more time
probably
there than at Walt Disney World.
yes, for us, for sure. And probably have stronger feelings about some of these things. Because the thing about all the stuff at Walt Disney World is that when my opinion of them are based on vacation destinations, right?
Sure, you're like,
Like
cool, I'll be able to experience this sometime.
yeah. But when we're talking about this stuff, we're talking about our lives.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but sure. Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's a part of our lives. I mean, I'm not saying it is our whole life, but I'm just saying it's just, it's part of our lives.
Yeah.
So, anywho, I mean, we have to go to the grocery store and get groceries. We're gonna go and hang out at Disneyland. Like that's what I mean. Like it's just a part of our lives.
Yeah.
By design, by the way. We're not, nobody gave us special keys to be able to do this. We both moved right next to Disneyland so we could do that. So whenever I mentioned about going to Disneyland all the time to people that don't live in the area, they was like, "Oh, you're so lucky." And I was like, this wasn't bestowed upon me. I pay the Disney tax to live in Orange County, one of the most expensive places to live in the country, just so that we can have this lifestyle.
It's true.
And
And so let's talk about your lifestyle and how you feel with an addition
my
of
life.
a brand new Coco attraction at
Yeah,
California Adventure.
yeah, Coco Dark Ride Boat Ride is coming. And all we know about it is that there's a boat, this concept art, and the construction starts in 2026, and that's all we know about it. Everything's left to speculation, and based on this concept art, where there's singing and guitar playing happening, you'd imagine that music is going to be a big part of it.
I mean, all I can think is that this is the Grand Fiesta Tour duplicated at Disneyland. I mean, at the Disneyland Resort at
Yeah, yeah,
California Adventure, but with the Coco overlay that everybody thought that Epcot was gonna get.
yeah. That's what it seems like, right?
And my guess is if this works, maybe that they would move into that concept. I mean, I'm glad that the Three Caballeros still exist at Epcot, but like, um, yeah, this seems like, oh, this is what most people thought Epcot was gonna get. It's interesting that it's coming to California Adventure, but it also makes sense because we're so close to the Mexican border here. We have a huge population of people either
Mm.
from Mexico or children descendants of Mexican people here. So it makes a lot of sense to have it at California Adventure.
It does. Yeah, I was going to point that out. Is that the demand for Coco as an IP is very, very strong in Southern California. And so if you're gonna first place you're gonna put something like this, it's got to be here. I mean, just think about when they opened Mickey's Philhar Magic in DCA, they added a scene from Coco. That doesn't, I don't, did they, I think, I don't know. I think they said they're adding that finally to Magic Kingdom. I think that was one of the
Yeah, they
announcements
did
I
get
heard,
it.
or they got it, or I don't know. But that was injected in here when it opened in DCA, which is vastly different from everything from the film. It's the only Pixar representation in the film. I mean, or the attraction, whatever you want to call it. And I thought that was very strategic way to get to them to try to get some Coco in the park, and now
There's
it's
also
just
no announcements for any additional segments of that film. Like, the idea of it was that they could add anything at any time, and
right.
it doesn't seem like that's part of their plan. So it's interesting that, the test run maybe was, is Coco still a viable option? And if so, if it's popular enough, could we get people to an attraction? That might have been the test run for a possible Coco
Probably that's why they put it
themed
in
area.
there. Yeah, to see. Um, we'll see. Well, they didn't announce a themed area, but they did say this attraction, so we don't know where it's going. Uh, there's there's the speculation that we can have is maybe it would replace Little Mermaid. Unlikely.
It
Um,
would make sense
it would make sense
because that's
if they were.
considered Pixar Pier.
Yeah, it's already there. I'm talking about if they're gonna like repurpose an existing space. Other than that,
Right.
it seems like they need to build this from the ground up. To be honest, I can't think of any other existing space where
My
they would put
assumption
this in here.
is that the Paradise Park area, where they typically have, like, the Coco Festival every Halloween time,
Yeah,
the Dia de los Muertos festival, is probably on the chopping block.
that whole area.
That's
Yeah,
I would
wow.
assume that entire area would go. It's it is busy back there
It's like
during some of the
it's always packed, right? I mean, that's like,
right. But then, my guess is that the only other option for this would be to put it back by Monsters Inc. Um, but I don't think that it's going to go there either.
yeah. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. What the future of Hollywoodland is. Um, well, I don't know, but this is probably the second coolest announcement for people that like creepy dark stuff in Disney.
I think this is my favorite announcement for Disneyland.
Yeah, no, I think so too. This is going to be great, and even if it's just a Grand Fiesta tour and it's just going through like one song in different
Yeah.
area, like, and that's what Grand Fiesta tour seems like. I can't guarantee that it's just one song. I know I think it shifts, but it seems to be a continuous. It's a small world variation type thing. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't have a feeling in Grand Fiesta Tour that I've entered a completely new environment when I go around the corner.
I think we might see multiple songs on this, but I also personally love that we're getting an attraction that's just a small boat ride and that they put an emphasis on it.
Mhm.
And I know they probably put an emphasis on it because it's Coco themed, but like when everything else kind of feels like you were saying, Rise of the Resistance level,
Yeah.
with all this state of the art stuff, it's kind of nice just to have a little boat ride just to relax and to have something a little less fast paced. And I think that
Yeah, it's
that's
a
what
good,
this
yeah.
is, and I think it's perfect for DCA because DCA needs more stuff like this.
100%. Yeah, yeah. It's like we often forget there's so like most of DCA is has such a height requirement essentially, right? Like
Yeah.
um so yeah, I mean, not much more to say about that. So hope maybe it'll open in 2026. I doubt it. I don't know. It's probably gonna be 27 or 28 if they're starting in 26. So
Yeah. I think
eh,
that it
mm,
will be not the emphasis of this park quite yet. I think the next thing we're talking about here is gonna be the next major thing to open, and then the focus will move to that probably.
yeah, well, let's hop to it, huh? That's- Which is the long-awaited Avengers e-ticket, and another attraction was announced. So the e-ticket is now officially called Infinity Defense, and another attraction was announced called Stark Flight Lab, which from the concept art essentially looks like Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey minus the theming.
Do you remember when they had this, technology at Epcot, at Innoventions for a while? Maybe
Isn't it
like
with the sum of all thrills? Is that what it is?
yeah, but it was, it was a stationary thing. It was like, "Here, test this out and see what it is."
What
It
can you
kinda
can
seems
you
like it's that, but on a motion track.
I was like, couldn't it wasn't that where you were able to create your own roller coaster track, and then it would simulate it with this and when
Yeah.
arm. Yeah. So there's a
So I'm
lot.
thinking this might be similar.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, let's talk about this for a moment. Based on what we just saw, it's like, you're sitting in a two-seater on a Kuka arm, and you're being, tossed around. That's probably fun. Like the thrill. I mean, I'm not gonna, we got to go on it just, to that. But this concept is really a stretch for me. As far as like what I want out of a Avengers themed attraction. This seems like a capacity filler thing to me. This concept doesn't seem super awesome.
Yeah, this is a really interesting idea considering, they had announced previously that we were going to get the what I guess is now the defense attraction. This another additional attraction there seems like it's kind of tacked on.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. And
So
if it's literally just a room where there's a pre-show video or like, hey, welcome to my lab, just like Rub Slingers, fusion video,
right.
test it out for me. And then it almost seems like a more thrilling spinner ride or something. Like that's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, in a way, but then there's also a it looks like there's also seating for a not thrilling version of this, like a mission space situation.
Yeah. Maybe this is like super intense, and then they have the version that's not on the sides.
Yeah, I guess
And then
I
look,
will judge this later because I'm unsure of what this even is. The concept art is extremely vague beyond what the ride vehicle is. But this just isn't something that I wanted from this area of the park.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. When I wanted some type of Marvel Avengers attraction,
Yeah,
like
especially when it looks like what's going to be leaving is the area that has housed the Doctor Strange show, which I think has been an actual highlight of that area of the park.
yeah, that's probably where it's going. It is, but it's also, yeah, I guess the capacity of it wasn't really hitting, which is probably what this is about.
Sure, but it would be great to have more uh shows, than maybe these thrill ride type attractions. Like I get that the idea about Avengers Campus is to test all of these technologies, but also to be able to I think the best part of the land is meeting the characters and seeing them roaming around.
Oh
And I
yeah,
think
by
having
far.
more show elements made that land feel more alive, considering that most of it feels like any kind of industrial park in anywhere USA. Like
Yeah.
that's what made it for me. And I think that taking away one of those things to add more technology stuff um doesn't do it for me. But I guess they're going to throw a ton of money at Robert Downey Jr., so what do I know?
Again, I align with your thoughts. I mean, I guess my overall opinion of Avengers Campus is I understand that they created this space so that it can be interchangeable with different IPs, so it's not based on a specific moment in time
Right.
that they couldn't do that. And I like that it has a place for whatever new Marvel thing that's out can exist in the parks. That's been a highlight of Avengers Campus. Um, but I think and even the backstory they gave, I think was clever. I'll even give credit for that. And the backstory being that this was a place that Tony Stark's dad owned, making cars, I guess, I don't know, or something. Yeah. And then also did some of his work there. And then they've taken it over as an Avengers place somewhat.
Yeah.
But so all that's great. but actually going and standing inside of Avengers Campus is akin to like going to an office complex in Irvine. It's just like it's not
Right. Or
that
like
cool to
where
to stand in there.
wherever you live, if it's an office complex, it looks like Avengers Campus.
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean, and what should it be instead of that? I don't know. That's what my pay grade. Um, so but the ongoing story, like web slingers, like, hey, we're testing stuff out, and then it didn't work out. I mean, that's a vague, interesting concept. Like it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that's potential to be cool. I mean, but it, there's a debate like, should theme park attractions continue the story? Should they recap the story? I see both sides, but when it comes to Marvel, like I want to be brought into the movies. Like that's just me personally, right? Like I don't need to test out, mechanical spiders with Spider-Man. Like I want to like fly like Spider-Man, or you know what I mean? Like
Well, I think that's the benefit of the attraction at Islands of Adventure. I think the
right.
Islands of Adventure Spider-Man attraction is fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of
And
the
I do
greatest.
like web slingers to a certain degree, but I don't think that its longevity is as high as a lot of other attractions. It does seem like the main attraction here, the Infinity Defense is something that like we will probably get more of that story being
So
told.
and yeah, and maybe similar movie moments. Like obviously, this has been
Right.
told. This is a new story line that is not represented in any films. It's actually it's some timeline in the multiverse or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but being able to, have another attraction that just feels similar to uh web slingers where it's like, "Hey, come test out this flight stuff for Tony Stark." Yeah, I kind of wish something was different there. So it's a hit and a miss for me
Mhm.
here, and I just hope that Avengers Campus, similar to talking about how Hollywood Studios has updated and changed over time, um, finds its own identity that doesn't just feel like, hey, we're an office building park with some stuff.
Right, and I think that feeling will shift. I mean, I hope it'll shift once uh Infinity Events opens, because right now we have this huge chunk of land and building that all they really use for is people, doing stunts on the balcony.
Yeah,
Right. And it seems like a big waste of space. I mean, it's to be quite honest, like, which I guess back to my other point of saying is that this attraction should have opened with Avengers Campus, because I feel like that would be the anchor of the attraction, and the boring office vibe of the outside of it would be less prominent in our brains if there was actually an awesome attraction to experience
yeah,
in this new area. I mean, Mission Breakout's great. We all enjoy it, but that's even a stretch that it's part of this land. The whole like they transported it or to California from whatever planet it's supposed to be on, is a stretch that I'll take. I'm glad they thought of it, but
right.
but anyways, that's in our brains. That's not part of the new Avengers campus that opened up a few years ago. Like that's something that already existed. Almost 5 years before Avengers Campus even opened.
Right.
So maybe that'll change like the whole vibe of the whole place once it actually opens. But um, with this attraction, and a lot of the little information I gave about it, they actually seem similar to the Spider-Man attraction at Islands of Adventure in the ride vehicle, the mix of screens and practical effects, which is fine. But at one end, I'm like, that ride, it opened in 1999. So we're hitting 20, it's 25 years old.
Right.
It's like, and of course it's a competitor's you know, right, or product, whatever. So I hope that it's more than just the Spider-Man attraction at Islands of Adventure. I hope they do something else. Again, that should be a Rise of the Resistance level thing. I don't think they even have the room for that in the space, but that it warrants
No.
it. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, that's my opinion on that. Any other thoughts before we move on?
No, but tell me your very strong opinions about a Walt Disney animatronic coming to Disneyland, because that seems very debatable.
We want to know my strong. Well, let's talk about what this is. So, coming to the Main Street Opera House, where Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln currently is, there's going to be a show called Walt Disney: A Magical Life, with a first ever Walt Disney animatronic, which clearly they've already.
Quite a while. It is it is a minimalist concept.
Yeah, I hope it's more than this, because even if you, for the people listening that haven't seen this concept art, it looks like a backdrop of like an office, uh, maybe taking up, I don't know, what would you say, 30 to 40% of the
The stage
stage drop, and
with the curtain
and
behind
then
it.
behind that, the curtain behind it, yeah. Which is, it's clearly you're not in an actual office, like it's it's just a backdrop. It just looks temporary, really, to be quite honest. So maybe they'll do more. But when Lincoln's set up, it doesn't have like a lot of detail to the background, but the use of space and the lighting
Yeah.
really makes it seem like a full experience. It definitely doesn't look temporary, You know? So there's that. But let's talk about the elephant in the theme park. Walt Disney animatronic. And you said you want to know my feelings about a Walt Disney animatronic.
Sure.
I have mixed feelings about it, to be quite honest. Walt Disney spearheaded this technology, and then also the company has recreated many people that lived and breathed, and Lincoln being one, the Hall of Presidents, American Adventure, you know, even what's his name from Smuggler's Run, the guy that's in that Hondo.
Hondo, yeah.
I mean, obviously that's not a living person, but that was wait, was that modeled off an animated character or a
Yeah,
live
it's
action
modeled after
character?
an animated character, but we have all the
Okay,
other
so that
Star
doesn't
Wars
count.
characters. We have Finn. That's a
Right, yeah. They have animatronics of human beings that are currently alive and Rise of the
right.
Resistance, right? Which it's debatable. I mean, some of them look okay, some don't. Whatever. Um, so I, that precedent's already been set, and that is okay. General consensus for them, it's okay with me, and I think it's okay with most people that these actors' likenesses are portrayed in the attraction. I think the number one concern about a Walt Disney animatronic is revisionist history. Where you're gonna get they're gonna have him say things that he didn't say.
Sure.
Right. I think that's probably issue number one. Um, and just the positioning they have Walt Disney with the company in 2024, it's interesting because for the most part, I'd imagine that most people younger than us are not really know that much about Walt Disney and or don't are not really that connected to Walt Disney as a figurehead or anything like that. And this would be a good way to just have a little bit of that one man's dream type of experience in Disneyland, where you get just get a little bit more about, hey, this name of this place is actually about a person who had some ideas and was able to get people that were really talented to execute them. But more stronger than that, he represents too many the American dream, the possibilities of using, like, anything's possible, your imagination, sky's the limit. He also represents trustworthiness, all these things that people have projected onto him over the years. And that's the emotional attachment that people are going to bring to looking at a show like this, the older generations that look at this. And if there's any compromise of anyone's interpretation of those things, they're going to have a problem with this. And that's bound to happen because everything I just said is subjective.
Right. It definitely feels like it's going to have to be a fluff piece because it can't be anything of any controversy at all. I mean,
Yeah.
in the same way that like the Lincoln show, yes, it does tell you about the Civil War, but it doesn't really go into great
It's a
detail.
fluff piece. No, like, you have to know what the Civil War is and about going into it for you to understand the heavy context of what's happening at
Right.
Mr. Lincoln. Yeah, otherwise you're just hearing inspirational sentences.
Yeah, so in that regard, like you know, I feel like it'll be in the same vein as that. And it looks like they're gonna rotate both shows. If you actually look at the artwork, um, it does look like it's on a rotation, and I think maybe this is why the staging is as it is because they can flip it,
Yeah,
rotate
they
it
did say they're
around so that
going
you
to.
can get the Lincoln show and the Disney show. I'm interested to see what this is about before judging it, although, like, a lot of people will say the family wished that they never did this kind of thing, um, so, they waited until his 2 daughters and son-in-law are all dead before they did this kind of thing. There's that conversation to be had. I think I'm with you that I think this is a great way for people to know who he is. Will they know everything about him? Of course not. They definitely won't allow that. But
Yeah,
I think that it is a great introductory piece and also for that theater in particular, a way to get more people into the theater to check it out without it also being uh to be honest with you, most people probably walk by the theater having no idea that the Mr. Lincoln show is even in there, despite the fact
yeah,
that it says great moments with Mr. Lincoln in giant letters across it. Um,
yeah, yeah. I can tell you, like, as like from my youth,
yeah.
like, I never stepped foot in there. It wasn't until I became, like, a adult Disney theme park nerd
Yeah,
that
and I
I
think
that I
that
watched the
that's
show.
kind of what this is catering to, right? Like, it's catering to the people who are gonna make their way in there because they do want a glimpse of Walt Disney. They want to hear him speak to them or whatever. I think that the majority of people are still going to walk by this attraction. I think this is, if anything that we're talking about today, the one piece that is like a labor of love to the fan base. Because the people that went to the
Yeah, yeah.
D23 Expo are the people that are going to go into this attraction.
Yeah, which is clearly a significant amount of people because that event sold out. But how many of those people make up the annual visitors to Disneyland, right?
Yeah.
Like very, very little, right? So my last thought about this is, will it actually be creepy to sit there and watch a Walt Disney animatronic? Someone
Yes.
who we never saw in person.
I mean, I've never
We
seen
only
Abe
watched
Lincoln in
videos.
I've never seen Abe Lincoln in person, yet I do know that that feels really creepy. Um, when I see Finn, right, and on Rise of Resistance, that seems creepy. Um, anybody who was living, the Johnny Depp animatronic, seems creepy. Like, it's gonna be
I
creepy.
think it always does. Yeah, you're right, because there's something when they're not based on real humans who you've seen move and talk and exist. Yeah, in Pirates, to talk about that. You're kind of filling in the gaps in your brain,
Yeah.
subconsciously, even of
They
like
come off a little bit
who the
cartoonish in their way
yeah,
they
there's
look.
that too. Mm. So yeah, it just doesn't seem as jarring to be like, this is supposed to be this person, and it's unnatural.
Right.
As incredible as the technology is, and I'd say that the most impressive one I've seen recently would definitely be the Hondo one, as feeling like an actual person moving and talking,
Right.
because it's probably the newest one in the park. We'll see. But yeah, that's that. To me, I'm just like, let's actually watch this show and get it and base an opinion about it. In concept, I think it's interesting. I'm not against it. But let's see the actual show to
Yeah.
form an opinion on this one.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much all that's really happening over at the Disneyland park, you
Yeah, we
know?
got one last little area here, though.
But we've got
So
some more coming into DCA. Again, not a lot of details yet, but some pretty cool artwork, to be honest. I don't know where it's going to go. Again, people are debating where this might go. Is it going to be the demolishing of the Hollywood backlot? Are we going to get rid of Grizzly River Run? Not sure. Will this be a new area? No idea yet. But we do know that Avatar is coming to California Adventure in a pretty expansive way from what it looks like.
yeah, I mean, for those watching the show, we have the land concept art up, and let's just talk about what you just said about where is this going. There's absolutely no way this is going in Hollywood Land. The massive size and scale of this,
Unless they
like I've
demo
heard a lot of people.
everything.
Even then, I don't think this would fit in that space, because you got to think about what is right on the other side of that space. Is the end, like the walkway to get in the park from Harbor Boulevard.
True.
Like they'd have to close off that entire area. Like there's not even just the space. If you go back to the regular concept art, the land concept art, not even just like the space that we're seeing, but wherever this Utica attraction is, we're going to talk about, show building is going to go, wouldn't even like that's like that's it's probably as big as this land. Like I just think that's out of the question. To me, if it's an existing DCA space, it's replacing Redwood Creek, Grizzly River Run, and Soren. That's the only way that it could possibly fill up,
Which
like have this
then also
visual.
ruins the Grand Californian and that view.
Well, changes it, ruins it, subjective. But
Sure. It changes it because like the whole idea about the Grand Californian is that when you look outside, it's supposed to look like the redwoods. And it
yeah,
wouldn't. If you're staying there, you would get a glimpse of Avatar.
which whether that's good or not, it's like I said, it's subjective, but that doesn't seem like a reason for them not to put it there. That seems like more a reason to put it there. Like, the Avatar, view rooms, like, yeah, because I'm sure, I mean, regardless how you feel about Avatar, I think they're fun movies. But independent of that, I mean, that is a space, like just going to Pandora, in Animal Kingdom. It's just it's a great space to be in. It looks cool. It's a
Yeah.
cool place to be, so it seems similar, where it's like, it's so, it's unique, it's grand, and it's going to be visually stimulating. But all that being said, I still don't think that's enough room based on this concept art. Even if you got rid of all three of those things to fit that in there. And we're not even going to talk about like the thematic clashes around the park of having something of this scale, like so close to other things.
Right.
The rumor that I get behind the most is that this is going in this is like going to be the first part of Disneyland Forward that's going to go in the parking lot that for downtown Disney. What is that parking lot again? I forget what it's.
I forget what it's called, but I
feel like it's Lion King.
Essentially, you would
is,
have to take a bridge out of current DCA to get to this area.
over that street, which I think it's Disneyland Drive.
Yeah.
And yeah, which
that makes sense.
Which is fine, I guess. Yeah, I mean that's the whole Disneyland Forward proposal was that they would utilize these other spaces near the hotels that you would have to, take travel to in some way, whether you walk over a bridge, whether they have some kind of transportation, which I doubt,
right?
Because that would be cumbersome. But to me, like that's the only space you're gonna see that, and also, DCA is not contained visually from the outside world the way Disneyland is. Obviously you see the back of Radiator Springs Racers. Clearly you see Mission Breakout from the street.
Right.
You could see part of Credit Coaster from the street, so this would kind of be in line with that. So that's why I think we go there. Now let's talk about this e-ticket attraction that you brought up. So this is rumored to be a similar experience to Shanghai Disneyland's Pirates attraction, which I still haven't watched any videos of because it's one of those like I'd rather wait for the time I get to experience it. The little bit I've seen of it and what I know about it is it's a boat attraction where you can control the speed of it and where you stop and start.
Right.
And then that mixed with screen background and practical props and effects and animatronics closer to you.
Yeah, and clearly, like, in this artwork, there's a giant whale. I don't think that this is an animatronic that's going to leap over your boat. This is very much a screen situation where there might be like a splash of water up on you or something like that. But
yeah,
I do like this idea, especially like if you said it uses that Shanghai technology. This could be a large show building. This could also be something that, like, I think is maybe the only attraction in this area. There might be like a restaurant. From the concept artwork, it looks like that boat attraction goes both inside and outside.
Yes, yeah.
And so
they didn't announce it. Everything clear. They didn't announce anything.
Yeah,
right? They didn't even say that this is an attraction. I mean, they just showed this concept art where it clearly is an attraction because you're on a boat, but they didn't even say that it was.
My assumption is maybe it's the only attraction for this land. I don't know.
With the DCA limited space thing, even that parking lot's the only place it could go, but that's still not like the biggest space,
right. We'll see.
Yeah, you're probably right there. It's probably not another attraction.
It might just be like a restaurant, a shop, and an attraction. And, areas to walk around in.
Why do you think this is happening? What's your opinion? Like, why are they creating this space in Disneyland?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think that they want Avatar to be big. They know that there's multiple films coming down the line, so they feel like it will stay relevant for a time period. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about the first Avatar land, as we keep calling it, Pandora, the world of Avatar, it was announced a year after the Wizarding World of Harry Potter changed the theme park industry. And it was announced 2 years after Avatar became the highest grossing film of all time.
And in that way, it makes sense at Animal Kingdom too.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was replacing literally in the space, but also in the in the Animal Kingdom lore, what was supposed to be Beastly Kingdom.
Right.
So all those things like made sense. And at that time, Disney did not own 20th Century Fox. So this was them going outside of their own IP to collaborate with another company of what they to compete with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Like, I mean, I think that's been everyone's assumption of what that was about. And that's why they announced it so early and it took so long to build, because they just wanted to get the announcement out there and shift the conversation, which I don't really think that it did during construction. I think pretty much most people were like, didn't have that positive of feelings about Pandora until it opened, and then they're like, oh, this is actually pretty cool,
right?
Outside of my feelings of this movie, which people kind of have mixed feelings about the movie, independent of its record-breaking box office. Very few people had an emotional attachment to the characters in the world and all that kind of stuff. So since then, Disney has bought Fox, now owns the IP. Since then, there's been another Avatar movie,
which I think is the better of the two.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's subjective, I guess, whether it's better.
I don't think it's worthy
not.
of its own land.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it was like when the movie was over, I was like, I enjoyed watching it. Like that was good. I had, my bladder didn't enjoy it, but because
on
the theater. but I was like, that was good, fun movie. But I mean, I guess to make an investment into continuing on this when it's proven that nobody is emotionally attached to the IP, it just confuses me. Just to be honest, I don't understand.
And it's a large property, like it's a large piece of land that they're going to take up wherever it goes. If this is accurate, if this, even if this isn't completely accurate, if it's like half the size of what is being shown here in this concept artwork, it's still a big chunk of land to dedicate to a property that I feel is proven in the moment, but not necessarily proven long term.
Yeah, I mean, but it's when I'm just gonna compare Pandora, like it could be a great investment for the theme park long term, because Pandora, without any context, is still it's a fun place to be and people love it. And Flight of Passage still has 3-hour waits. That's a fun experience to have. Like, you don't need to care about Avatar or Pandora to enjoy, the Animal Kingdom's attractions. So I guess that could translate to DCA as well, because of the grand scale.
But at the same time, now going back to our conversation about Cars, with Radiator Springs working in DCA because of its Route 66 origins, but not working in Magic Kingdom, this doesn't feel like it works here as well as it does at Animal Kingdom, because Animal Kingdom focuses on the botany and like the animal life and all of that stuff. This has nothing to do with California unless you're talking about the ocean, but like this is Pandora, it's not California Oceanside, and it's not putting an emphasis on you're entering the movies like Universal would tell you, ride the movie. So it doesn't feel like it fits California Adventure. If you were to connect this to Disneyland, it doesn't at all feel like Disneyland. But you could also say they added Star Wars to that and gave it its whole place, and so we've bastardized that. So whatever. But like, I just feel like this doesn't fit. As cool as it's probably going to be in being in there, I personally would rather see something else come to California rather than Avatar.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a few good things that there. One is the theming of California Adventure. I mean, I feel like that's like just it's the beginning of the end of that, and it's so much so they might even change the name of the park at some point. So, there's that. But then there's also the Cars Land is pretty immersive and pretty, all that kind of stuff, but it's not at the Galaxy's Edge level, which is, it's not at the Pandora level. And that is like going to be such a contrast to the rest of the park. I mean, even up against Pixar Pier, sorry, not Peel,
Yeah.
Pier. I mean, like, what a contrast. But let's bring it all the way back over to Hollywood land. Like, what? Like, here's some warehouses, and then here's a magical mythical land. Like that just doesn't connect at all. But and I guess what's kind of sad about all of this, as far as DCA changing, is that all the effort they put into the 2012 redo, and I think Buena Vista Street, it's such a great, well executed space.
I agree. I prefer it over Main
Yeah.
Street.
I think I do too. I think that I just aesthetically, I just prefer that time period more, as far as like what they're bringing to the table, as opposed to 1900.
Right.
So there's that. But they created a great space with a great feeling, and I'm not going to get into it here, but getting rid of the red car trolley is one chip away from that immersion of being in that space. And even I feel like those efforts of 2012 are they're not long for this world. I mean, Cars Land's gonna stay, but beyond that,
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? It was Cars Land, it was Street, and Little Mermaid, right? Was there anything else in that?
And we've already talked about Little Mermaid maybe going away.
Yeah.
And Pixar Pier.
Oh, Pixar Pier wasn't part of the 2012 one.
Was it? No. I mean, it was. I think it was part of the larger idea. Regardless,
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it needs to be connected to California in any way.
No. It almost seems like. I mean, it's funny. It's like, that's a third gate, one Avatar attraction. That's never going to happen. But well, we'll see. I don't know what kind of timeline. I kind of hope they build it in that parking lot so it doesn't impact being at DCA for the next 5 years, because that would be a real bummer.
Yeah.
If it's a construction zone in the middle of the park for that long. That would definitely kill the vibe. But whatever, it happens. That's how things change. I know.
Right.
Well, I think that's about it for us here. Talking about things that have stood out from the D23 announcements. Villains Land, Coco. Those are the things that I'm most excited about. I'm excited about some of the technology. I'm excited to see what some of these attractions actually are going to be when they announce more details about them. But this is going to be all this is going to be very long process to learn about it. And as far as Villains Land go, this is obviously something that we're going to be paying very close attention to and continuing this story. Any new information comes out about it, we're going to be taking deep dives into it. I might even want to do an episode of this show where we just speculate and armchair Imagineer or something,
Yeah.
because that's how exciting of a prospect this is. And as Epic Universe opens and Dark Universe comes to be, obviously our last episode, we did a whole deep dive on that when they announced all the details there. I think there's definitely going to be a lot of parallels. So we'll have something to base it off of, I guess. And maybe we'd be totally wrong by doing that, but I don't think so. I want to celebrate and encourage Disney to create these spaces for us creepy people.
Well, and it seems like
Not
that's
just
kind of, along with Universal, where we're going in the next few years.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you think about Universal, it's like Horror Nights is such a just juggernaut thing. I mean, it's definitely big in Hollywood, but Orlando's it's its own beast. And it's only 2 months out of the year. Like, they know there's a demand in Orlando for this for sure. It's funny because I saw something where I came across that MCO, Orlando International Airport's social media account, made a post about the opening of Halloween Horror Nights. Like, the airport made a post. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the airport is aware that people are traveling in droves enough to post about it on their social. What do you look for an airport social media account for? You want like updates on flights
No.
openings.
You want Horror
They're
Nights updates.
they're like, we know that you're traveling here in the thousands to go to Horror Nights today, so we're gonna celebrate like that. That to me shows how huge Horror Nights is. It's a different conversation, but it made me think about that. Like, oh, okay, needs to be a place year round to kind of whet this appetite. I mean, obviously we already think that, but I'm thinking that the parks are ready to pull the trigger on this stuff, where they in the past were a little hesitant.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting
Everyone
Dark Universe, we're getting Villain's Land, we're getting our own year-round Horror Nights situation in Vegas. Like, it's growing.
So yeah. Alrighty. Well, yeah. You can let us know your thoughts about any of these announcements in the comments, whether on our social media post or if you're watching us on YouTube, in the comments here. And other than that, I think we're going to wrap up this episode. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next time, the gates are closed.
Thank you for watching, and thank you to our sponsors and Patreon producers for making this video possible. Hit the subscribe button so the creepy fun never has to end. This is Hannah reminding you to keep it creepy.